What's up? Welcome back. John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today, I'm here to talk about The Actor. I, just, I think that's how you have to pronounce it. You have to pronounce it like it's highbrow and like you're a snob and you're looking for an actor. Uh, this movie's been pushed around a little bit because I've seen it. This is a little bit like Holland. I've seen this listed for a while now on awards races. Like it's been on people's radars. Uh, and it just finally released in 2025 in the beginning of the year. Largely because I think this is Neon's way of saying we're not campaigning this, just so you know. uh, we're not putting a huge campaign behind this. We might put it in our packet, but we're not legitimately expecting much from this campaign. Click like and subscribe because I want to talk about The Actor. For my blind fam out there, I'm wearing my purple New York Yankees hat backwards. You can see the little logo, I think. Black sunglasses, and I'm wearing a green Loki graphic tee. It just says Loki on it. The Actor. Oh, man. So you know when you watch a movie and it immediately reminds you of a better movie that happened with this? And I spent a lot of this time thinking about another movie, which I watched 2024, revisited in 2024, and it really made me want to revisit it again. And that movie is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So to give you any idea, because it's going to be really hard to explain The Actor, especially after one viewing. I did only watch this once. I do feel like I need to watch it again. I just didn't have the time and the space. This is a film where I kind of think about when we get screeners for things, and you see how many views you're allotted. And sometimes I see the views and I'm like, I don't need 20 views. Who is there a critic that is viewing a film 20 times before they review it? Like, is that a necessary ask? I feel like 5 is fine. I like the 5s, but I've seen like the 20s, and I'm like, oh my God, has that been a thing? Have there been people who've been like, it'd be nice if I could have 20 views. For what? But The Actor is a film where I immediately was like, I think I need to see this again. It's really hard to follow. It's trying to do a lot. It's directed by Duke Johnson, who's really trying to immediately make an implant here as an auteur. He's immediately trying to come in and say, I am one of you. Great directors. This is, offbeat. Feels like it doesn't cover it. Weird. Feels like it's just a sloppy way, like an easy way of defining this movie. Existential. I'm trying to think of like words that I would use to describe this movie. It's almost an indescribable movie. It's very strange. It's unique. And in many ways that works in its favor. And I get to say this a lot because last year really made me think about what is it that I think about in film when, because in 2024, I watched like 455 movies. I watched a lot of derivative shit. And now that we have streaming services and they're making a lot of content, they're making a lot of stuff that just feels like, I've already seen this 1,000 times. This is literally just right off the assembly line of films exactly like this. Although for some reason, even though there's, it's like doing a coloring book and there are the lines, for sighted people, I think you'll get this a little bit more, but it's clear, like those are, if you look at a little kid's coloring book, that black line that outlines the character, it's pretty thick. You can kind of see where you're supposed to shade in. And yet somehow you get those kids who still take their crayon and they just like zigzag over the whole thing, and they're like, here, and you're like, what? That's not color. That's what kind of this feels like. Is feels a little bit like a refusal to follow any sort of standardization of cinematic roles, or the evolution of film, um, in its own unique way. Uh, yeah, it feels like something that uh, I don't know. Uh, I mean, Being John Malkovich comes to mind. Um, Stuff that Charlie Kaufman has written. I'm thinking of Ending Things. You know, I think films like that is what comes to mind with the actor. So there's Andre Holland and Gemma Chan, and Andre it's set in the 50s, and he plays a man who, after an event, sort of loses his memory, but he's also struggling to kind of get back to reality. Like he ends up waking up somewhere that's he doesn't remember. This isn't his place. This isn't, he doesn't know anything about this place, but he's also sort of got this romantic relationship going with Gemma Chan throughout the course of the movie, but he's also battling this memory. Interesting things come and happen in and out. Um, and sometimes he just has to sit down and tell somebody, be like, listen, I have no idea what's going on. And it's funny as an audience because I'm like, I don't know what's going on either. Um, so I had such like a meta moment where I think he's at home, or he's at the representation of his home, and he's just sort of like listening to a soundtrack, and this character that's uh, supposed to be a friend of his comes in and asks him, if he's had an opportunity to listen to his album yet, and he's like, listen, I don't even remember my name. I don't I don't know where I am. Like he's just sort of having these like existential moments. And it's all played straight too. Like it's played more of like a thriller than it is a comedy. It's not a comedy. It reminds me of a lot of comedies, but it's like all of those films if they were taken super seriously and pushed into more of a thriller drama romance angle. Um, it's a very interesting film. Thank God it had audio description. I wouldn't have been able to follow this at all without audio description. I still think it needs a second watch. I don't really know what to do with this film, but it's incredibly interesting. I'm very interested in Duke Johnson's effort here as an individual, and it's probably something I'll rewatch again at some point. But I felt like I got a lot. I feel like I, I feel like I watched the actor. I was like, I don't know what just happened. I don't know. I don't know what I just watched. I don't know if it makes sense. Um, and to sit down as a film critic and say that is, it feels asinine, but it also feels like that's honest. Like you may actually sit down and watch the actor and have that experience. And for me to try to act like every single film makes 100%. Listen, one of the things is I don't have a sense, right? I don't have all my senses. I don't have sight, so um, substituted through audio description. That's how I get a lot of the visuals. And it's possible that a lot of things in this film would have made more sense had I had sight and was able to connect all the dots together. And being reliant upon audio description for every single film doesn't always work. It's possible. And that's my specific viewpoint. But I'm going to say I had a bitch of a time with the actor. And um, but I also like films like that challenge me, so I'm not bored. I to some extent last year I stood up for Megalopolis, Joker, and Here because it was like at least they're not boring. At least there's something here where you can see a director is trying to do something that is different than what a lot of these other shittier I think if you're a critic and you're like, well, I reviewed 100 to 120 movies, it's like, that's cute. I reviewed 455 movies last year. So uh, I saw all the shit. I didn't just dodge it. I walked right into like every ass streaming film, a whole bunch of VOD releases, uh, you know, um, just a ton of really just god awful movies. And so I know what that looks like. We're still making those. We're still making these incredibly derivative titles that feel like somehow they feel like 1,000 movies were made before them, yet they have none of the style or the substance of those films. And like they're the incompetently made version of things that came before them that were better. So um I was never bored watching Joker Folie à Deux. I watched that movie the whole time. I was like, what on earth? What is happening in this movie? I mean, I was just so blown away by the choices. It's not a good movie. I'm not standing up for that movie as a good level, but as a cinematic experience, yeah, I had a much better experience with that film. And same thing with Megalopolis. It's like it's so baffling. But it's the swing it's taking is huge compared to some of the other films. So would I rather watch Megalopolis or The Crow? Megalopolis all day, every day. I'd much rather watch Megalopolis over why did we even need this? The Crow. It doesn't even answer its need for its own existence. And there's nothing interesting about it. So yeah, I'd rather watch Megalopolis. I'd rather watch Here, where Robert Zemeckis is like, well, I think it'll be really cool if the camera just sits in one place. I mean, it doesn't work. He doesn't really use the cool premise. He tries to make it a more of a narrative than it probably should be, considering he's got a camera that's stuck on one spot. He somehow manages to pull more of a narrative out of that film than necessary. But compared to like his Pinocchio, yeah, I'd rather watch Here. Um, and earlier this year, I've already seen a couple films this year where I would say the same thing, like Odessa, the absolutely bonkers musical that's on Hulu, which could end up becoming a legend in its own time, much the same way that something like Grease 2 has its own sort of like ironic or unironic following now, or Repo. Um, and I thought the gimmick that Steven Soderbergh used for Presence, even though I didn't love the movie, I mean, he was trying to do something interesting. Yes, he was doing something that we had just seen in Nickel Boys, and I think was done to a greater effect in Nickel Boys. But at least he's not just doing the same old shit. And that's what I'll say about Duke Johnson's the actor, is at least he's not doing the same old shit. At least he's trying to do something that feels like his idea of breaking into Hollywood is to make something that no one else is making. And if we don't continue to support that, we're just going to continue to get a lot of the same sort of Netflix movie of the week, uh, uh, just crap and John Wick-ish things. Like everything feels like it's a John Wick ripoff now. Like that's the whole subgenre of films, is somebody needs to get revenge on somebody for something. uh, Comic book movies, for every single character ever known to man who's gonna get a comic movie. Um, I'm still waiting for Squirrel Girl to come back around, by the way. That was gonna happen. ABC Family was, back when it was called ABC Family, or Freeform or whatever, was developing a Squirrel Girl TV show that never made it to fruition. And I haven't seen them mention her since. And I keep waiting. I'm like, are we gonna do it? Can we do a Squirrel Girl thing? Can it happen? Um, so yeah, that's kind of like, that's our future. If we continue to, everything that seems like it didn't work, but also is an auteur trying to buck this system that seems to be set up against them, that would much rather have a more accessible film that feels incredibly generic than have something where you leave the theater and you go, I need to sit down and talk to some people about this. Like, I feel like I need to have a conversation with other people who've seen the actor and be like, what did you think? Like, it's a great conversation starter. That's what I would say, is if you choose to watch the actor, watch it with people so you can talk about it afterwards. Because uh it's certainly not boring. I would never accuse this film of being boring. I'm just not 100% sure it narratively makes any sense, and the only way I would know that is by watching more times and going back through and doing rewatches of it. So this is just my opinion after one viewing, which is fair because I should have an initial viewing. Sometimes I do things like a second look where I come back around the second time and I go, oh, did I like it more? Did I like it less? So audio description on this, you know what? It seems fine. However, I will say I didn't fully grasp all that was the actor. So I'm going to sort of reserve my final thoughts on the audio description for the actor for an eventual rewatch. It's Neon. It'll eventually be on Hulu. So later in the year, which would be great because by the time this lands, it'll on Hulu, it'll be later in the year and I'll have seen more films. I'll have a better idea of where this needs to go in terms of awards consideration. I thought Andre did a really nice job with what I was picking up when he was putting it down, you know? Um, and Duke Johnson, certainly when I'm thinking about interesting directorial choices, I'm going to be thinking about the actor. So I don't think that Neon putting this at the beginning of the year necessarily says we should not campaign this at all. After all, A24 opened Love Lies Bleeding in the earlier part of the year, and they did manage to get some traction out of that. So, and Dune, of course, opened in the first 3 months of 2024. So, I think it can feel like if you're a January, February, March release that there's no hope for you, but there could be. And The Actor is one of the few films, even though we just listed a whole bunch of films that I did not give positive reviews to, The Actor feels like a film that could be that. So for me right now, it's hard to get too excited about a film that I feel like I really could not describe to you what The Actor is. I would just tell you to watch it and just let it wash over you, and with the full knowledge that I don't think everybody's going to like this movie. But I could say that about a lot of films. I think when I see written by Charlie Kaufman, I don't immediately think, well, this is going to be something I can recommend broadly to everybody. I think this is going to be something that a very small percentage of the population is going to like. And it's usually going to be movie nerds. If you open this in wide release, people typically are not going to like it. If I'm thinking of Ending Things had opened in 3,000 screens, it would have flopped. It opened on Netflix and it wasn't like a huge hit, but it found it, the audience that needed to find it. So, yeah, that's my thought on The Actor. It reminded me a lot of other films like that. Anyway, I'm going to lean positive on this right now. I want to say I'm going to give The Actor a C+. It's hard for me to get much more excited about a film that has me still in a state in a state of unrest. But I do think Andre Holland is a very strong actor, and I love how he chooses his projects. And I think he feels like he's chasing a nomination, but somehow just never gets noticed. You know, last year he had Exhibiting Forgiveness. This year he has The Actor. he always seems to fall way off the list, even though people look at him and they go, yeah, we really respect you as an actor and you choose interesting projects. So it'll be interesting to see how the actor plays out as more people see it throughout the year and whether or not it gets any sort of awards recognition. I'm going to think probably no. I'm going to think a lot of people end up sort of rejecting uh, the oddity of it all. But for what? So we can get more of the same thing we've seen before? So we can get films that, like another haunted house movie? Yeah, no, thank you. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.